Today, guys, we're going to talk about EKG tracing and how to do it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is preparing the skin for electrode placement. So if the patient has chest hair, you're going to want to go ahead and shave that completely off to prepare the skin. The next thing you're going to do is use an abrasive cream to wipe away the dead skin cells. And then you're going to use an alcohol swab to go ahead and clean the area. So I'll go ahead and do that for you guys. You're going to do that on all of the areas that you're going to place an electrode. I'm just going to do one to show you how to do it. Just like that. And then you're going to want to let the alcohol dry before you actually place the electrode. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the placement of the electrode. So we're going to talk about the limb leads first. For today, we're just going to use regular stickers to show you the placement. So the first one is going to be the right arm. You're going to go right under the clavicle, and there's going to be a little soft spot. So you're going to put a lead right there. Then you're going to draw a straight line down, and you're going to find that last rib. And you're going to go 1 inch below that, and then place the sticker. Make sure it kind of lines up with that top one. So then you're going to go to the other side of the body, and you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to find that little soft spot underneath the clavicle. And then you're going to take and place your electrode, and then you're going to draw the straight line down, find that last rib, go 1 inch below, and then place your electrode. The last thing we're going to talk about are the precordial leads electrode placement. So we're going to start with V1. You're going to find the right sternal border in the 4th intercostal space, so that's going to be about right there, and go ahead and place the electrode. So then you're going to move over to the left side. You're going to find the left sternal border in the 4th intercostal space, which is right there. Go ahead and place the electrode. Okay, so then you're going to skip V3 and go to V4, and that's going to be the mid-clavicular line in the 5th intercostal space, so about right there. So then you're going to place V3 equally between V2 and V4, right in line. Okay, so V5 is going to be the anterior axillary, so you're going to find the axillary line, drops directly down in the 5th intercostal space, place it, and then the last one, V6, is going to be the mid-axillary line, right under the armpit, and it's just going to be in a horizontal line with the rest of them. Just like that.
Hi, so I'm going to be demonstrating how to take blood pressure. Blood pressure is the measure of the amount of pressure against the blood vessel walls and is represented in units of millimeters of mercury. Blood pressure is expressed in the form of a fraction. A normal blood pressure is 120/80. The top number of the fraction is the systolic pressure, which is the pressure in the arteries when the heart contracts. The bottom number of the fraction is the diastolic pressure, which is the pressure in the arteries when the heart is relaxing between beats. We will be assessing blood pressure using a blood pressure cuff and a dial and a stethoscope with a diaphragm. Before putting the cuff on your client, it is important to consider the arm circumference of your client and choose the appropriate cuff size. Choosing a blood pressure cuff that is too small or too large for your client will lead to an inaccurate reading of the blood pressure. So I have chosen a cuff that is the appropriate size for my client. Blood pressure is assessed by listening to vibrations along the blood vessel walls called Korotkoff sounds. There are 5 phases of Korotkoff sounds. As you begin to release the pressure by loosening the air valve on the blood pressure cuff, which is located right here, there will be a point in which the pressure in the artery will exceed the pressure in the cuff, and some of the blood will escape through the artery and pass the cuff, producing a vibration or a thud that can be heard through the stethoscope. The pressure on the dial at the first thud is the systolic pressure. Eventually, the intensity of the thuds will begin to decrease, become muffled, and then completely disappear. The pressure on the dial at which the sound was last heard is the diastolic pressure. Your client should be in a seated position like so for at least 5 minutes before taking the pressure, and their arm should be rested on a flat surface at the level of their heart. You will then wrap the cuff around their upper arm so the lower edge of the cuff is approximately 1 inch above the antecubital space, which is located on the anterior elbow, and aligned with their brachial artery, which is the main artery of the upper arm. And then there's a spot on your blood pressure cuff where your artery will align. It says artery mark, and that's what you will align the brachial artery with. After placing the cuff around the client's arm, you will insert the stethoscope into your ears. You want to make sure that the earpieces are slanted away from you so that they align with your ear canals. and then you want to tap the diaphragm to make sure that sound can be detected. You will then take the diaphragm of the stethoscope and place it on the antecubital space or just below the antecubital space. And then you will tighten the air valve on your blood pressure cuff by twisting it all the way to the right until it's completely tightened. And then you will pump the blood pressure cuff until it reads 160 to 180 millimeters of mercury on your dial. And then you'll slowly begin to release the pressure by twisting it to the left at about 2 to 5 millimeters of mercury. And then you'll slowly listen for the appropriate cough sounds and record the pressures at which they were heard. Okay, so now I'm gonna actually take her blood pressure reading. So I'm gonna take my cuff and I'm gonna wrap it around her arm, aligning the artery mark with her brachial artery, placing it 1 inch above her antecubital space. I want to place my dial where I can easily read it. And then I'm gonna put the earpieces in my ears, tap the diaphragm to make sure sound is detected, and then I'm gonna take the reading. Okay, so this is the pressure gauge or the dial. Each bold line is gonna represent 20 millimeters of mercury starting at 20, and then each line in between represents 2 millimeters of mercury. And then you're gonna twist this air valve all the way to the right so that it's tightened all the way. You're gonna pump it up to between 160 and 180 millimeters of mercury. And then you're gonna slowly untighten the air valve and get your readings until you get the systolic and diastolic, and then you'll loosen it all the way. So I got a reading of 126/74, which is a pretty normal blood pressure.
Alright, so now we're going to be assessing skin fold. The skin fold technique is a method that estimates body fat percentage by determining the thickness of several folds of skin across the body. So for males, we're actually going to do the abdomen, the chest, and the thigh. So for the abdominal fold, you're going to want to do a vertical fold that is 2 centimeters to the right side of the umbilicus. For the chest, you'll do a diagonal fold that is 1/2 the distance between the anterior axillary line and the nipple. And then for the thigh, you're going to do a vertical fold that's on the anterior midline of the thigh, midway between the proximal border of the patella and the inguinal crease, or your hip. So I'm going to go ahead and make my marks. So for the abdomen, we're going to do a vertical fold 2 centimeters to the right side of the umbilicus. So you're going to go at the umbilicus, and we'll just go 2 centimeters to the right and make our mark. Okay. So we're going to measure 2 centimeters to the right. And then we're going to make our mark right here so that we know where to measure. Alright, for the chest, we're going to do a diagonal fold that is 1/2 the distance between the anterior axillary line and the nipple. So we're just going to go half the distance between the line of the armpit and the line of the nipple and make our mark there. So about half the distance would be about right here for the chest. And then for the thigh, we're going to go halfway between the patella and the inguinal crease, which is the hip. So we're going to measure about halfway through there and make our mark. Alright, so from here, the abdominal fold is actually a vertical fold. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your top 2 fingers and then your thumb. You're going to pinch them together and you're going to have a chicken wing so that you can hold from the top. From here, you'll take the caliper and then pinch below where you've made your fold, your skin fold. So I'm going to grab at the top, pinch below where I made my skin fold, take the reading, and then I will let go of the caliper and then let go with my hands. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and show the chest. So this is a diagonal fold, so you're going to make sure that when you pinch, you're not pinching straight up and down, you're actually pinching the skin diagonally. You're going to pinch right here at the chest, you're going to measure right below, release, and then release your hands. Alright, the last one we're going to do is the thigh. You're going to grab the top, just make a vertical fold again, pinch right at the bottom, release, and release your fingers. After you do this one time, then you're going to go ahead and go through twice. If the measurements are within 2 millimeters of each other, you're good to go. If they are not, you might have to go through a third time to make sure those measurements match up. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a skin fold assessment for women. So for women, we're going to use the suprailiac, the triceps, and the thigh. So the suprailiac, you're going to do a diagonal fold that is in line with the natural angle of the iliac crest, or the top of the hip. And it's taken in the anterior axillary line immediately superior to the iliac crest. So the axillary line, the anterior axillary line is going to be the line of the armpit a little bit to the inside, and you're going to find the iliac crest, which is the top of the hip bone, and you're going to make a spot right about here. You'll do a diagonal mark. So you don't really need a tape measurement for this, but so that's right where we're going to measure on the iliac crest. Next we're going to do the triceps, the back of the tricep. So you're going to do a vertical fold that is on the posterior midline of the upper arm, halfway between the acromion and olecranon processes, with the arm held freely to the side. So she's going to relax her arm. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find the processes, so her shoulder and her elbow. I'm going to go about halfway in between, okay, and we're going to do this with a tape measurement just so we can see the process behind it. We're going to go about halfway in between, which is about right here. Okay, I'm going to make a small mark just so I know where to measure, and then she's good to relax. And then for the last one, we're going to do the thigh. So the same as men's, it's still a vertical fold on the anterior midline of the thigh, halfway between the proximal border of the patella and the inguinal crease or the hip. So same thing, we're going to use our tape measurement to go halfway between the hip and the patella, and we're going to make a spot right in the center of it. And now I know where all my measurements are. So we're going to use the same caliper, the length skin fold caliper, and the same technique to measure these. So the suprailiac was a diagonal fold. So you're still going to take 2 fingers on top, 1 on bottom, and your chicken wing. You're going to grab a diagonal on the suprailiac, take your chicken wing, measure right below it, release, and then release your fingers. And I'm going to go ahead and record my measurements for some skin fold assessment things later on. Okay, now we're going to do the triceps, so the back of her triceps, and I'm going to have her relax to the side. So if they're flexed too much, it's going to mess up your recording, so have them relax. So on the Lang skin fold caliper, the large lines are going to be by 10s, the smaller bold lines are by 5s, and then the smallest lines are by 1s. From here, I'm going to show you a measurement. So we're going to pinch right below, and we're going to look at the caliper, and it looks like it's right at 20, settling at 19. And then we're going to release from there, and it was 19 millimeters. And then last one, we're going to do the thigh, which is the same as men. So you're going to come out here, you're still going to do the vertical fold. You're going to do your chicken wing. You're going to measure right at the bottom, release, and then release your fingers. And that's all for women. So when we were doing skin fold measurements, you're actually going to take at least 2 measurements that has to be within 2 millimeters of each other. So what we did was we went through the first time, measured all of our areas, then we went through again and measured the areas the same exact way. This time we actually got them within 2 millimeters of each other. So after you write them down, what you're going to do is you're going to take an average of these numbers. From here you will add this average up, and you'll get a sum of the averages, and then you'll actually square that number. So you can kind of see our math going through here. Here's our sum, and then here's our number squared. From there, you're going to find this super, super, super long equation. All you have to do is just fill in the blanks. So your body density is going to be equal to these numbers. When it says sum of 3 skin folds, you just put the sum of the averages in. When it says sum of 3 skin folds squared, in this whole section, you just replace it with this number. And then right here, you add in the age and add it all up, and it's going to give you a number. With that number, you can go to page 79 and 80. I think 79, 4.4 is for males, and chart 4.5 is for females, and all you have to do is put this number in and compare it to the norm.